Welcome to Rainbow Vision Network, a radio show reaching beyond the limitations of our minds and beliefs into a world of inspiration and empowerment, where the impossible is possible. To learn more about your host, Betsey, her new riveting books on Amazon, be sure to check out Betsey's scheduled events, her predictions, and her Earth News One blog at betseylewis.com. BetSeyLewis. And now, your host, author, international psychic medium, Earth Keeper, and Earth Mysteries investigator, Betsey Lewis.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show on this Monday, April 27th, 2015. We are coming to you live from the City of Trees in southwestern Idaho, and I'm really excited to have my two guests today. I find it really extraordinary that so many of us are now talking and writing about the connectedness of all things on the planet. I recently wrote a book, Earth Energy, Return to Indigenous Wisdom, and I thought it was important to have two shamanic teachers on the show today, Sandra Ingerman and Llyn Roberts, who have experienced nature throughout the world. They want us to know that anyone can access the spirit of nature, whether through animals, plants, trees, or insects. They want us to reconnect to the spirit that lives in all things, bringing balance and harmony back to Mother Earth. They have together collaborated on a new book titled Speaking with Nature, Awakening to the Deep Wisdom of Earth. Sandra Ingerman, M.A., is an award-winning author of 10 books and teaches on the shamanic way. And Llyn Roberts, M.A., teaches at Omega Institute in New York, and I'm not sure if that's still current, and is an award-winning author of several books on the shamanic way. Sandra's website is sandraingerman.com, and Lynn's website is llynroberts.com. Hi, ladies. Sandra and Llyn, are you there?
We're here. Hi.
Llyn, are you still in New York teaching? Is that correct?
I do teach in New York at Omega. I'll be there in August. However, I live on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, great. Great to have you both here. And Sandra, you're in Santa Fe, New Mexico, right?
I am in Santa Fe, New Mexico, yes.
Cool.
The high desert. Yeah.
Great. Now, is your book available on Amazon? I know that when I talked to your publicist, she said it was coming out in May. So is it available now?
Actually, it became available today on Amazon.
Oh.
Yeah, it was supposed to have a release of May 2nd, but it became available today on Amazon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, this is our book celebration.
It is. It's very exciting.
Well, great. Oh, well, great to have you on this day that you're celebrating the release of your book. So why did you decide to collaborate on this book about Mother Earth and the connectedness that we need to get back to?
Llyn, do you want me to start, or?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, both Llyn and I have a very deep and profound backgrounds in shamanic teachings, which date back tens of thousands of years. And part of the teaching of shamanism is how everything that exists is alive and has a spirit. And so we decided, Llyn invited me to write a book, and when we discussed back and forth on some possible topics, we talked about the divine feminine part of nature and how it's so important for the healing of individuals on a personal level, but also on a planetary level, to help people connect with nature again, because so much of the illness that we're seeing is our lack of connection with nature. And so we decided to write on that, but to come up with a unique way of teaching people how to reconnect with nature by sharing our own personal stories of connecting with nature where we both live, which Llyn was in the Hoh Rainforest in Washington when she was writing Speaking with Nature, and I wrote from my home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So we shared stories about our own individual connections with nature beings, hoping that people would feel inspired to start to connect with nature where they live for, again, both personal and planetary healing.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Thank you, Sandra, that I know for both of us, and I certainly felt this, that in many ways that the earth was calling me, and that, the experience of connecting with these nature beings was such an intimate unfolding and really experiencing deeper than I ever have in my life. And I was very nature connected as a child, and also have had a lot of experiences with Indigenous groups in many parts of the world, deep connection with the earth. But nature, for me, came alive in a way it hadn't before, and I feel that the earth is so awake and conscious and really calling us now more than ever. And many of us are hearing this calling and responding. And the book itself, I feel, is a response to the call from nature to all of us. And I like how we wrote it because it really came from our personal experience. It's not kind of a theory or anything, and it's not, this is how shamans in this part of the world do. It's more our own innate access that anyone can open to, even if you're living in the middle of the city.
Why do you believe, now either one of you can take this question, but why do you believe it's so important that we connect to all of Mother Earth's living beings and the elements like the Indigenous people and our ancestors have for thousands of years?
Well, I'll start with that. It's natural for us to do that because we are innately part of the earth. We're made of all of the elements, and we're actually in a state of dissociation when we don't recognize our deep connection with the earth. And it also causes us, to live in a sense of separation that creates cultures and societies that don't value nature and, all of the resulting problems we have because of that. So it's vitally important that we remember who we are, that we're earthly beings here, and that we can communicate and participate with the life all around us, and to open our hearts to the deep love and wisdom that is available to us, and also open our own deep reverence and how we give back to nature, and how we shift our mindset, our consciousness of being dominating and just seeing nature as a resource, and to really co-creating and participating with the natural world around us. We're not, I think a lot of, after being an energy healer for many years and working with shamanic people who heal with the elements, who bring people to greater balance and harmony by applying earth, air, water, fire directly to their bodies, you can see how our state of disharmony and, a lot of physical and emotional illnesses and imbalances that we suffer come back into harmony, when we have exposure. Everybody knows what it feels like just to go for a walk in a beautiful natural setting. You feel good, they're natural healing agents. So many, many reasons to reconnect.
It seems like our modern civilization has become so detached from the natural world. What do you think has caused that imbalance in the world? So either one of you, do you want me to ask the question? I don't know if you heard it. I was just wondering why we've become so detached from the natural world now. Do you think this has caused the imbalance in our world?
Well, I think that part of it has been technology. We moved from a nature-based society where we were dependent on being able to be outside and watch the weather and feel the air and notice how things were changing, and to remember that earth, air, water, and the sun are what sustain us. And so we became disconnected from nature from moving more into a technological society where we disconnected ourselves literally from building homes with technology that took away the need to, we could take care of ourselves without whatever was going on in nature, whether a storm's going on. We have heat if there's a snowstorm. And also the fact that we live such stressful lives now where we no longer honor the cycles of nature and our own cycle of how we feel during the changes in the different phases of the moon and different phases of the seasons. We can work 7 days a week now and be totally disconnected. We think we can be totally disconnected, but because we are nature, we're never disconnected, and nature, as Llyn said, is definitely trying to get our attention right now, and is doing that in a very big way for all of us to wake up to our need to remember our connection and the truth of who we are, which is nature.
Oh, you are so right about that. We're seeing all these huge earth changes taking place, and I think it's our wake-up call, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting too because I did a webcast yesterday with a Peruvian elder, and we were talking about, last week there are actually 7 major volcanic eruptions in 6 different countries, and how terrifying and tragic that is, for the people and nature beings lost in those events. And on the other hand, also, there was the recognition that, the mother is awake and she knows what she's doing and that she's really propelling a lot of change. And he was talking about the volcanic eruptions are, to them, really represent that the fire spirits are coming back, that the spiritual energies are actually really waking up now. So we're very supported in really moving into deeper wakefulness with living forces all around us and adapting our lives in, differently as a result of that.
It's
change our dream.
Go ahead.
I just said to change our dream.
Say, Llyn,
I think
gosh, I think that's a beautiful point that you just made, and what I hear you also saying that is that there's hope, and I think that one of the things that happens, when we start to look at all the climatic events going on in the world simultaneously, is that people start to lose hope. And what you were sharing about what the Peruvian elder said of this is a time of spiritual awakening. It is a time for us to reconnect and find spiritual practices that to help us to reconnect instead of just giving up hope and saying, well, it's the end of the world, and so, I might as well stop doing anything. And, that's not the best attitude to be holding right now.
Oh, you are so right. I had someone on Facebook today say, oh, we're doomed. And I said, no, if we believe we are, we're doomed. If we give up and don't continue to honor the earth and get back to that connectedness again, then we are doomed. If we give up. And, you were so right. And that's what I loved about your book. There's, you talk about your experiences. You offer meditation and prayers in there, which is so beautiful. And I know, Llyn, you spent a lot of time in Guatemala with the Maya people, and they taught you many things about speaking to nature and the sentient beings there. So tell us about that.
Well, every indigenous group really regards nature as alive and conscious, and it's a very ordinary thing. It's embedded in the culture to, on a daily, ordinary basis, to relate to the spirits of the lake. I've spent a lot of time around Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, and if it's in the Andes, the volcanoes in Guatemala as well, and everything is alive, and we open our hearts to the spirits all around us, and we speak with them, and they offer healing energies for us, and it's just a living relationship. And one of the beautiful things about our book, Sandra and my book, is that we do the same really with the nature beings in our locale. I've taken so many people to exotic, powerful places in distant and remote parts of the world. But it's so vitally important that we recognize that the nature right out our doorstep, just step your feet, and wherever they land on the earth is sacred and magical and powerful and alive and something we can relate with. And nature is, just in observing nature also and her rhythms and what unfolds and looking at when I was living in the rainforest, the amount of death and decay is just mind-blowing. But it's so hard to draw the line between that and all the life that's continuously popping up. It's really inseparable for me, and there were so many teachings that came out in just observing and, watching the rhythms and how things grow and the force that propels that life, and that coinciding death and decay are just this amazing, unstoppable life force. And and the death isn't bad, it's a richness, and we're experiencing a lot of death and dissolution now, to, I think, really open the space for us to see and live freshly. So, yes, a lot of magic and power in what I have been taught and shown with Indigenous people, and really, through the book, opening people to that, where they live, where we each live.
Right, all right. And talk about the rainforest, because they are being clear-cut and burned down, and with them goes all the incredible beauty of the rainforest, but also medicinal things that we could use for healing probably every kind of disease or illness that we have in the world. So what have the trees told you? And either one of you can take this. Llyn, I know you spent time in Guatemala, so go ahead, either one of you.
Well, I'll just briefly say I was actually in the rainforest. I've been in the rainforest in Panama and also in the Amazon. I've spent quite a bit of time there in Ecuador. But where I wrote the book was in the Hoh Rainforest, which is in Washington State, the largest temperate rainforest in the world, which I had never heard of until I moved west, wow, which is kind of mind-blowing. But that's where I wrote my half of the book. And so just to clarify there, and whenever, the national park, of course, is pretty protected, but we're talking about state forests, that are being cut for many reasons, and a lot of those trees are being shipped out. But I sit actually with some of these stump people that I call them when I visit the forest now. And it's very hard sometimes not to get overwhelmed with grief and looking at these huge stumps and looking at kind of the spindly second growth all around. But I've been told very clearly by these trees that you really have to focus your attention on life and really support the life in any way you can. And the book, of course, is a tribute to this. And I'd like to give space for Sandra to respond.
Thanks, Llyn. It's beautiful what you said. And I think the most important thing to remember about the rainforest, because you can look at all the tragedy that's happening from the Amazonian rainforest being cut down, from the loss of medicinal plants and the amazing trees, and what's happening to the ecosystem because of that, and how trees actually heal the environment, and what's happening because those trees are being taken down. But the bigger issue, again, circles back to what you asked us before, Betsey, about being disconnected from nature, is understanding that every single living being that exists on this planet actually contributes a particular strength and gift to the entire web of life, so that everything can live healthy, whether you're 3,000 miles away from the Amazon rainforest. The fact that those trees are being cut down in the way that they're being cut down how they're not being honored, and also how it's being done in such this harmonious way as far as honoring what's happening in the environment. The whole entire world, the whole entire planet is being affected health-wise because those trees contribute to the health of the web of life.
Oh, how true, how true. And most people don't realize the importance of trees because, like, one tree can give off 260 pounds of oxygen per year, and they take in all the bad stuff and pollutants in our atmosphere. I mean, they're so incredible. And I know you wrote in the book about the western hemlock tree and the cottonwood tree, and I love cottonwood trees. But, you know, everything, like you said, is all related. There is that symbiotic relationship. So we are related to everything, and everything is needed on this planet. And won't it be great when we all realize and we all honor everything again? It's got to go back to that way, the natural way.
It's going to actually have to go back that way. It's not, you know, human beings think that we actually control nature and have power over nature. And I think that that's the lesson that we're all waking up to. And what I always wonder is how loud does the wake-up call have to get? You know, there are a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that, well, you know, if you keep drilling the earth for oil, look at all the earthquakes that are happening right now in Texas and New Mexico and Idaho. I heard there was an earthquake in Idaho, and they know, I mean, they're actually saying it on the news. It's coming from the oil drilling. All the water that's being polluted from the chemical pollution, how the climate is changing because all the trees are being cut down, and trees do affect rainfall and drought. So it goes back to humans are not in control over nature. Nature is going to win out in the end. So how loud does the wake-up call have to get before people, you know, stand up and say enough is enough? You know, we need to start treating the earth as our home, which it is, and we need to stop destroying our home.
How true. It's our only home. We have no other place to go. Once we destroy everything, that's it for us and all of life on Earth. You know, we destroy our oceans, our waters, our air, you know, and the Indigenous people, I mean, we've got to listen to them because they are the ones that are part of Earth. They understand. They've honored Earth. They have done ceremonies and prayed over Earth. And that's the beautiful thing. And I know both of you have been involved with the Indigenous people, so you know what that is. I think, Llyn, you were involved in some vision quests. Do you want to talk about that and what vision quests are?
Well, I actually did a vision quest in Washington State with not Indigenous people from other parts of the world, but I've also gone through similar things in Siberia and the Amazon initiations and quests, and it's a process of going through prayer, and, you know, often traditionally there's fasting and ceremony and really opening to the spirits and to nature, to the earth, and oftentimes it can include, you know, a period of being isolated and alone. Typically it's 3 days. And, you know, oftentimes people will go in with a specific intention or something they're asking to be answered or waiting for a vision. So it's a very sacred journey into nature to open the portals to spirit, to receive guidance. So I've had many different forms of vision quests, and that's kind of more the term we use on these lands. Not so much in the Amazon or Siberia, other places. But I've had very powerful, what would you call them, visionary experiences with nature, many of them. And what I come back with that is, first of all, a profound appreciation for the living world, that we, the world that we are, living in day to day and through our mundane lives is just a slice of what's possible for us as human beings. And this is something I always come away with on these quests, and just keenly aware of the sacredness all around us. And, I've seen what people might call miraculous things. I've been witness to balls of light in the sky, that the Shuar of the Amazon would call our ancestors, or, star people. And also, when I was on Vision Quest, actually in Washington State, the sky actually formed. It was completely clouded, and this portal, completely, perfectly round portal formed in the clouds. So I saw just blue sky through this portal of clouds. And then in front of my eyes, it formed into the most perfectly shaped heart. It was that communication. It was mind-blowing. It's in the back of my book, Shape-Shifting into Higher Consciousness, and it was one of those profound communications with nature, and that reciprocal understanding that we are nature and nature is us, and these miracles are, there's a lot of people experiencing very profound things on the planet right now, and that's part of our hope also, is that there's magic, there's a deep mysticism that's interwoven with our mundane world, and this is what shamans are intimately relating with all the time. So.
Yeah, and I also think, I think, vision quests are very powerful, and I've been on my own vision quest of fasting and going out into the desert for days with no food or water. But I think it's really important to understand that the veils between the worlds right now are really becoming thinner, and where those kinds of vision quests are very helpful, and they're also incredibly helpful for teenagers right now, who are so trapped in the material realm. There are many organizations that are taking kids out on vision quests, and they're really opening up to a different reality besides just the tangible reality and how many devices you have and texting and all of that. But I think that our souls are calling to connect with nature right now, and nature is really calling to us. And so you don't even have to go out on, a vision quest for days and fasting. You just have to go out into a park in the city where you live, or in the country where you live, and sit with a tree for 15 minutes, and you will open up to miraculous connections and start to see omens, and a butterfly might land on your hand, or a bird that you're really connected to might fly right by you, giving you a message. We don't have to actually put in the effort. Although vision quests are wonderful and they're powerful and they're an incredible initiation, we also can just take a few minutes a day and go into a park and sit down, as I said, either leaning at a tree or just sitting down on the ground and watching the signs that nature gives us and the omens that nature gives us, and how nature is really reaching towards our hearts right now to communicate with us. And we're so ready for it, because life, when you're only connected to the tangible realms and you're not connected to the spirit that lives in all things, you start to lose passion and meaning, and you start to feel deadened. And when we go out into nature and connect in the smallest way, we start to wake up to the beauty and wonder of life again.
Oh, how well said. Thank you, Sandra. Beautiful. Really beautiful. And we forget that when we speak to Earth, it speaks back to us. And that sounds crazy, but they do. Everything hears us. And that's what the Indigenous people and the ancient people, our ancestors did. They talked to everything. They thanked everything. If they took an animal's life, they thanked it. They had ceremony. If they cut down a tree, they would thank the tree's life. And how beautiful, isn't that amazing? And I know people like you and so many people are awakening out there. And like you said, the children coming in now, I'm glad to hear that so many are getting into the Indigenous ways, and they don't have to do everything Indigenous, but, that's great that they're learning these things. I wish more was.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a real movement back to nature, which is really important and beautiful and with children, too. And we're recognizing there's scientific proof now of the healing forces of nature, and you don't have to go far to find this information. I just heard of a beautiful project the other day, because I'm concerned sometimes about the hopelessness that is put out there, and what are our children experiencing, But I heard of this beautiful project where children were taught to become very aware of how many trees needed to be planted and grown, to counterbalance, what we're experiencing now. And they have this whole project. They learn everything about the trees, and then they plant their own seeds and saplings, and they nurture them and then put them in the ground. And so it's a way of them being able to do something very constructively, and also learning about the trees, and as a part of that, of course, connecting so intimately with the spirit of the trees.
We forget that that everything has ions and molecules, so we are connected that way. But, when you talked about the healing of everything, the mountains are healing, water, moving water, that's all the negative ions. And isn't that amazing? Earth can heal us.
Absolutely, and it's we tend to make the whole issue of healing has, of course, many levels to it, but there are so many amazing case studies and stories about people who have been life-threatened with a variety of illnesses, and also if you look at the enormous amount of anxiety and depression that people are experiencing today, and just going out on the earth, lying on the earth, putting your feet on the earth, and getting connected back to the heartbeat of the earth again. It's pretty extraordinary, the healings that people are reporting. And so, are we making some of the issues that are happening for all of us today a little bit more complex than they might need to be? Again, many different levels need to be looked at, but one of the easiest ways is just get back on the earth again and reconnect, get back into the cycle of the river of life, because so much of what's going on for all of us is we're walking against the river of life. And I oftentimes wonder, and I write about this a lot and speak about this a lot, if everybody just woke up every day and gave thanks for their lives and gave thanks to earth, air, water, and the sun for sustaining us, would things start to turn around on a climactic level as we start to live from a place of honor and respect, instead of forgetting our connection to nature, and that it's nature that sustains us. It's not technology that sustains us.
If we just come together in mass, that our prayers, our meditation, our intentions and visualizations, our gratitude, you are so right. You are so right. And I hope that with these earth changes, more and more people will realize and awaken to that truth that you're talking about, both of you. It's amazing. And I want you to, either one of you or both of you, to talk about the sacred feminine. Do you believe there's a great imbalance between the feminine and the masculine in the world right now? And how do we return to that balance, if you do believe that?
I'll let you start with that, Sandra.
Okay, I'll start, and I know you have some great wisdom to share. For me, the imbalance is that we are such a doing culture, the masculine energy, and yes, there is so much we need to do to take action, and we really are not taking enough action as far as protecting our environment goes. But the feminine principle of we heal by our presence, and we remember our spiritual nature, and that nature is spiritual. We're all who we are beyond our skin, and who we are beyond form is light and is love, and that one way to transform ourselves and to transform the planet right now is to be a presence of light and love, and that is a being. It's being, it's not doing, and to be able to sink back into ourselves again and stop the busyness of our lives, and to learn the practice of deep listening to the wisdom within each and every one of us, the wisdom of the earth, and remembering our own divinity, who we are, which is light and love, and shining that in the world like the sun shines and like the stars shine in the beauty of the night sky. We need to bring back in that feminine principle of it's who we become that changes the world, not always what we do. And so there needs to be a balance in that action and being and that deep listening part of ourselves, which is all part of the feminine.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Sandra. I just want to add a little bit that, it's, first of all, I want to really emphasize that feminine, we don't mean men and women, because we all have feminine and masculine. But so, for me, it's all of what Sandra just expressed, and in particular, really acknowledging sometimes the hidden and the things we don't see or we ignore, and the capacity for us to, as Sandra said, be a sense of being and open to the space all around us. We're so used to focusing on, our thoughts and what we want and objects and people, and there's so much space around all of that. And for me, this is part of the feminine creative void that is full of life and possibility, unforeseen possibility. And nature really feels like such a gateway into this fertile space of, what's possible. And a lot of that is being receptive and being opening your heart to it and not imposing on it. And, I do find, too, when people take off their shoes and socks and get on the earth or spend time in nature, just open their hearts to nature, they're guided in very different ways. It's not so much that the head is, the mind is, in the driver's seat anymore. The mind is a very useful tool, but it's kind of, it's its own agent now, and it needs to be in connection with the wisdom of the heart and the body and the earth. So that's a lot of, just a little bit of an extra angle for the feminine. Thank you for what you expressed, Sandra.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah.
I was looking over, some of the interesting chapters that you have, and these are things that people wouldn't think of. You talk about snowy owl, and I know, Llyn, you talked about that, and how people are seeing snowy owls come into areas they've never been seen before. Excuse me. And I read that coyotes have been seen in Manhattan, New York. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we wanted to do with this book, we are seeing a migration of animals coming down out of rural areas for food sources and survival. And I think the snowy owls are letting us know about climactic changes that are going on. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that Llyn and I tried to do in the book was we talked about nature beings that people don't think about in popular culture. Like we wrote a chapter, Llyn wrote on banana slug, and I wrote on earthworm, and Llyn wrote on glacial silt, and I wrote on sand, because we were trying to wake people up to, it's not just the nature beings that we talk about in popular culture, but everything, you know, there's microorganisms, and there's plankton, and there's algae, and there are all kinds of beings that are all part of this amazing web of life that remind us of the deep wealth and of richness of what we share this incredible planet with. And so I just wanted to make that point. But going back to what you said, Betsey, it is true that, you know, we're having in cities, we're seeing animals showing up. And I know in Santa Fe right now, we're all talking about birds that are showing up at our bird feeders that we've never seen before. The whole migration pattern has changed, and I think, again, it's just, I know Llyn has more to share on this, but I think it is a wake-up call to letting us know the climate is changing. Animals are looking for food sources, so they're going to come down to cities where they can find food, and they're also losing their habitats because of all the building that's going on, and so they're being forced to come down into the cities where they're, you know, when their homes are being destroyed.
It's so sad what we're seeing. Go ahead, Llyn. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to share a little also about the nature beings that we wrote about, and part of my experience was that, you know, what I mentioned about the feminine, the receptive, and just really being open to what was calling instead of kind of imposing or having a head strategy, you know, about how to approach writing a book about nature. So it was a real musing process with nature herself, and you know, as a result, you know, being called by the mist and having engaging with the mist in a very very intimate, profound way, and recognizing the wakeful qualities. Everything has spirit, and you know, the owls, the snowy whites, and the shift in you know, animal migrations. These are all signs, of course. First of all, about how our environment is changing. You know, there are mass migrations now because of climatic change. And also there are spiritual signs that, you know, in certain cultures that there's, you know, with the appearance of white animals, of course we know with the Native American traditions here, the white buffalo signifies a shift in times. There are many cultures who have prophecies all over the world about this time, and a lot of how that's been interpreted by our, you know, our mainstream media is this is a time of cataclysm and destruction, and that is not what I'm hearing with the indigenous cultures. It's that there are signs, and we're experiencing a perilous time. However, as Sandra mentioned before, the hope, there's great hope, because this is a time when our hearts and mind can come together, and when cultures can come together. Peruvian elder yesterday was talking about the North American and the South American cultures coming together and really learning how to create and live differently on the earth. So everything around us is always mirroring to us our actions and our behavior, and also, you know, providing signs, providing guideposts and signposts, and all we need to do also is just step on the earth and spend enough time with her, and she will teach us, she will show us, light the way for us.
How true. And now I know that you've written about invisible beings that watch over plants and flowers, and we've heard about these beings and legends and myths, fairies and leprechauns and all kinds of beings. So are they gone from our world, or are they still here and we've just forgotten about them so we don't see them? What do you think?
Well, I think children always see them. You know, they're definitely not gone, but children always see them. It's just that we've closed the veils between those worlds, and, you know, there are still certain indigenous cultures around the world, and in many stories about the people in Iceland who still really honor and respect the hidden folk who also live on the land, and they are caretakers on the land, and they are still here. And when you again move into a still and quiet place, you can experience them. It's just that this is just my personal experience, is that they've lost trust of adults. You know, they still talk to children all the time, in that they are caretakers of the earth, and they do love the earth, and they see us not honoring and respecting the earth, so that once we do come into connection with them, they give tasks to do, like going out and cleaning up garbage in your area, and showing to them that you are willing to take some action, and you are willing to do something. It's not just words, but you're actually willing to go out there and do something. And then they show themselves and give a lot of guidance on how to continue to work with caretaking where you live.
How true, how true. Do you think that the orbs that people are seeing, are those part of the invisible beings that you talked about?
Llyn, do you have something to share about that?
I thought I heard you beginning, so I waited. Yeah, the orbs are, you know, they're interesting now because people are seeing them more and more. They're really coming in, and as Sandra said, the veils are thin now. So we're perceiving, we're actually going through, I feel, a real shift in who we are as human beings. We're evolving. Our human species is evolving. So our ways of perceiving, you know, I don't think anything new is happening really, but it's always been there, but we had lost our perceptual skills. And as Sandra said, you know, children naturally are open. It just gets conditioned out of us. But now things are shifting, and people are actually, it's so common for people at workshops to show up with these photographs of orbs. It's almost like they want us to see them now, that they're, you know, it's not that they're coming back here, it's that they're here, and they're more available to us, accessible. And I know there are different, every indigenous culture that I've worked with has cosmologies that include star people. This is just a natural way that children in these cultures grow up, knowing that they have ancestors and families in the heavens, you know, as stars, and all the celestial bodies are nature also. And I had that experience as a very young child. I had pretty continuous communication with what I knew of as beings who lived in the distant part of the universe, who were my family. And I had to reclaim that as an adult, because studying Western psychology when I was doing bachelor's work, you know, I just thought, wow, I must have really been dissociating during that time. You know, it's a shame that we don't include these kind of natural perceptual qualities. It's starting to come in more and more that we're acknowledging these. But this is part of our reality. These are spirit beings, or, you know, I don't know what they are really, but they're a consciousness, a spirit that we can relate with, and that you know, it can be guiding forces for us, as they were for me when I was a child. And there's a very profound energy associated with them that people experience also. It's kind of a vibrational quality that can actually shift your awareness. So, you know, your sense of who you are on this planet is a little different, a little more expanded. And I think a lot of the things that we learn in shamanic cultures and you know, through shamanic processes in terms of journeying and expanding into other worlds, I think we can do that very naturally, as we may have as children, that we live in, you know, very ordinary, mundane reality, but also at the same time we're kind of moving with all of these spiritual realities, and here and there we may see some of them, or we may hear some of them, or we may just feel them and honor them. And they really help us understand how to live in deeper harmony. And Sandra gave some very specific examples of how that may play out, very concrete ways. And we need to care for our earth. I remember being in Siberia about a decade ago and traveling from village to village with about 9 shamans. In every village we would do healings, and we'd also do ceremony, and very profound reconnection for the people with the spirits and with the earth. And it was also a real call to, don't put your garbage on the earth. Treat her, she's your mother. You got to clean up. Very practical approach as well as deeply spiritual. They're inseparable, really.
How true, how true. Well, ladies, we just have a few more minutes left, but I want you to give out all your information, if you have any classes, conferences, your websites, and about your book.
Well, our book, as we said, is available now, Speaking with Nature, Awakening to the Deep Wisdom of the Earth, and lots of inspirational stories and lots of practices. And I would just like to give my website, which has lots of articles and a monthly column and my training schedule. And it's a very simple website, so easy to maneuver. And you can find a wealth of information there at www.sandraingerman.com. And so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much, Betsey. Yeah, my website is llynroberts.com. And there you'll find all of my books and also Speaking with Nature. And as Sandra said, it is available, and I just finished a webcast. Those archives will be available soon. You'll be able to find that on my website. And I'll be at the Omega Institute this August for a weekend followed by a 5-day intensive shape-shifting program. And you can find out more on my website.
Wow, that's great. Now, do either one of you do any kind of vision quest or anything like that? I wish you would. That would be great.
There are people who are very skilled at doing that. There's only so much we can all do, and I love going on vision quests, but I don't lead them at this time.
Okay. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Llyn and Sandra, you're just awesome. And again, your book is Speaking with Nature, Awakening to the Deep Wisdom of Earth. Awesome book. Go out and buy it because it will teach you so much about the earth. And thank you, listeners out there, and be sure and tune in next Monday. I have a great show for you, another great show with